There's no question that in November of 2019, your office had been provided evidence that shows battalion chiefs with the city of Salina were saying they were on vacation, but then reporting to the city that they worked those hours.
So is there a question there?
There is a question there.
Accusations of time theft spark an investigation into leadership within the Salina Fire Department. Our own Fact Finder 12 investigation reveals it could have cost taxpayers into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Alex Flippin has been digging into this story for more than a year now and finds the city was made aware of the accusations nearly 2 years ago, and the men accused haven't even been placed on leave.
The fire service is a noble calling, founded on mutual respect, trust between firefighters and the citizens they serve. Those words taken from the Firefighters Code of Ethics. The code, one former Salina firefighter says, is being ignored.
It's a black eye, right? This is going to be a major black eye for our organization.
Tim LePage, 22 years with the Salina Fire Department. Retired as a captain this past July, says he stumbled onto a hornet's nest late summer 2019.
The HR specialist there in Salina had contacted me. We started conversing over the next few weeks about, how overtime is handed out, what causes the overtime, and that's sick leave and that's vacation.
Offhandedly, the HR specialist mentioned to Tim that his boss hadn't taken any vacation. Something that, because firefighter shifts run 24 hours at a time, could result, he says, in days worth of more overtime. They were trying to cut down.
And that just caught my attention right away because I managed the overtime draw for my shift, including my boss, and I knew that he had taken some. So we did 2-3 weeks of due diligence, and we found by and large that some of these chief officers were just not reporting their dates correctly.
Here's what Tim LePage says is happening. The system that the fire department uses to record time and vacation doesn't really talk to the system that the city uses to record time and pay employees. So a battalion chief can go on vacation a day that he's legitimately not there, which causes another firefighter, usually a captain, to have to fill in for him. And that can result in overtime pay for that captain and possibly any other employees who have to backfill positions. But because these two systems don't talk to each other, the battalion chief that's on vacation can claim to the city he was actually working and get paid for that shift and the vacation. Plus, firefighters can even sell back a portion of unused vacation to the city for an even bigger payout.
Yes, exactly how it was working.
How is that possible?
Their intimate knowledge of a system, allowed them to manipulate it for personal gain.
And if it's happening in Salina, it's not a problem unique to that department. California, Colorado, Florida, Michigan, firefighter after firefighter caught stealing time in various ways and facing criminal charges. Emails obtained by Fact Finder 12 show the city of Salina was made aware of this issue in October of 2019, meeting on it just a month later. City Manager Mike Scragg.
We're aware of the accusations, and there's an active investigation ongoing.
When were you made aware of that?
Over a year ago.
Actually, 1 year and 10 months ago. And Tim LePage says in that time, the time card fraud, as he calls it, continued.
And the whole time, the chiefs, some of these chiefs were still stealing this vacation. For 7 months into them knowing that, and we're talking, at that point, we were in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, loss to the taxpayers.
Emails sent by the city manager in June of 2020 referenced the city receiving outside assistance on the matter, but he wouldn't elaborate for us exactly what that was. LePage says he was told that assistance is coming from a forensic accounting firm in Kansas City, more than 7 months after the city is aware of the time card fraud allegations. And to date, not so much as a reprimand.
You're approaching that as if a conclusion's been reached. And so in this particular instance, I would acknowledge it's been quite amount of time.
We can say I'm assuming wrongdoing will be found. I mean, I have pretty good evidence wrongdoing was done. It doesn't take a forensic accounting firm for me to look and say, well, those two things, one of these things is not like the other. If the allegation is time fraud, then putting that person on leave would make absolute sense. It would put an end to their ability to continue with wrongdoing.
everything you just described is based on a conclusion that we've yet to reach.
But I'm saying if you're being investigated to see if you're doing something wrong, wouldn't it make sense to put that person on leave so if they were doing something wrong, they couldn't do it, and if they weren't, they'd still be paid?
Well, there's a lot that goes into that, and there's a lot that goes into personnel decisions in general, and we have to take that into consideration on a case-by-case basis.
Scragg says the city's investigation is nearing its conclusion, but as of this airing, while an active investigation by the city continues nearly 2 years after the allegations of time theft were reported, not one person involved in the investigation has been placed on leave. Well, one.
I'm in both of
Tim
those,
LePage.
and then my phone rings at my desk, and it's my boss, and he is irate, and he says, there's going to be fallout from this. You were in these timesheets. You're not supposed to be.
LePage says he was caught looking at timesheets by his boss, a battalion chief, something he'd been doing and sharing with city administrators for months. LePage says he was called into a meeting with several supervisors and shortly after filed a grievance alleging a hostile work environment. He was then placed on leave until his retirement.
Yeah, my career's ended. My career is ended early because of all of this. I would like to see arrests, time served, whatever. Right? That's up to the court system, but I would like to see arrests, terminations, and I would like to see a real strong leader come in and set, accountability levels, goals, measurements, transparency.
You still care what happens to this fire department?
Absolutely.
Even after this?
Absolutely.
Now, Mike Scragg says he cannot give us a timeline as to when the investigation will be complete. But in an email obtained by Fact Finder 12 and sent yesterday by Scragg to members of the Salina Fire Department, he writes that an outside forensic accountant has been hired to conduct an investigation and that they will report or provide a report to the City Commission at their August 16th study session. The battalion chiefs accused of the time card fraud have not returned my repeated calls. In the majority of the cases of time theft I mentioned earlier at fire departments in other states, those accused were either placed on leave soon after the accusations were reported or terminated within a number of months of the allegations being made. I also spoke with the Saline County prosecuting attorney. He tells me his office has not been asked to investigate. We will, of course, continue to follow any developments. Mike, Rachel.
A Fact Finder investigation into allegations of time card fraud within the Salina Fire Department showed members of the department appeared to be reporting their time incorrectly to the city.
A former captain with the department talked with Fact Finder 12 investigator Alex Flippin. He said those actions, spanning at least 7 years, came at a cost of hundreds of thousands of dollars to the city. Now a forensic audit finds it did just that. Alex joins us now, and Alex, that audit was released just last night.
Yeah, Mike, Rachel, the auditors hired by the city to investigate the allegations found that members of the fire department were taking days off, but not reporting them as vacation days. They were also improperly using sick and personal time and taking what they called admin time.
The red flag with that last one is that admin time is not permitted by the city. But the audit uncovered hundreds of shifts where firefighters claimed admin time instead of using vacation days. Unused vacation days can be sold back to the city for money, and the audit found that cost the city even more money. The audit released Thursday found more than 265 shifts where firefighters took time off but didn't use vacation to the tune of $198,000 to the city. Personal and sick time not reported to the city totaled more than $18,000. And the cost to the city for unused vacation days sold back by firefighters who had taken days off but reported it as admin time is estimated at roughly $75,000 for an estimated cost of $291,000 that doesn't even account for overtime caused by the improprieties. Tim LePage, the former captain with the fire department who originally reported the time fraud allegations, says the audit's findings come as a relief.
The immediate reaction was almost tears of joy, that I felt like I was vindicated, been vilified by a handful of people there, and I think this just solidified that, I did my due diligence, I was correct, and now the powers to be no.
I did reach out to the city manager's office for comment, but was told they didn't have anything to add. I also reached out to Salina Mayor Melissa Rhodes Hodges, who had this to say. quote, "This is unacceptable. It represents a wholesale failure of leadership and a casual disregard for the city's fiduciary responsibilities. In my opinion, the consequences need to reflect not only the financial costs, but also the damage to the public's trust." Now, Hodges says that statement represents her personal views, not those of the city of Salina. The full audit report can be found right now on our website and the KWCH News app. It will be presented to the City Commission at a meeting on Monday, and we will be there to let you know what they decide to do with it.
Here, residents in Salina say they want more answers after an investigation finds that for years, chiefs of staff for the city's fire department were paid for days they were not working by claiming to the city that they were.
Fact Finder 12 investigator Alex Flippin broke this story and was at a city commission meeting last night. He joins us now. Alex?
Guys, a forensic auditor who confirmed what the chiefs of staff were doing says she believes it has been happening for years, but that fire department records only date back to 2014. Because of that, the true cost to taxpayers is not known. Now, some of those taxpayers do want to know what the city plans to do next.
You're asking who knew what when, and I would also say, when didn't you take action?
Salina residents attending a meeting on Monday questioning the city's action once it confirmed that for years, chiefs of staff with the fire department were claiming they worked days they did not, and then sold unused vacation days back to the city to the tune of more than $75,000. Salina Mayor Melissa Hodges.
I think a lot of this boils down to who knew what and when did they know it. There just doesn't seem to be much of a sense of urgency, and we didn't stop the wrongdoing when we found it.
Others at the meeting asking more questions and demanding action.
When are we going to quit hiding the facts? When are we going to start prosecuting the people who freaking steal money from the city and quit washing this underneath the table?
Now, another takeaway from that meeting, as we said, the fire department records only go back to 2014. The auditor says she thinks this has been happening since 2007.
So what happens next with the city? Is there legal action, civil action that can be taken now?
It's something that was asked more than once at last night's meeting. The city manager says it'll become a personnel issue, and that won't be open to the public. When city attorneys were questioned about it, they just really didn't provide any definite answer.
All right, we'll continue to follow. Thank you, Alex.
New developments today in our investigation into issues within the city of Salina's fire department. Last week, we told you the chief of the department was put on administrative leave. Today, we're learning he's now resigned. Fact Finder investigator Alex Flippin first reported on time card fraud in the department back in August. He's been following this story for close to 2 years now. Alex, what's the latest here?
Well, Jacob, our investigation uncovered chiefs of staff with the fire department were incorrectly recording their time with the city, and an audit of city records confirmed they did so at a loss to Salina taxpayers of more than $75,000. Now, following the chief's resignation, I sat down today with the original whistleblower who brought this to our attention to get his reaction.
In a message sent Wednesday and obtained by Fact Finder 12, Salina Fire Chief Kevin Royce informed his department that his time there is at its end. In it, he writes in part, "I will be tendering my resignation as Fire Chief effective Sunday, November 21st, 2021. I know this department will overcome recent unfortunate events and work through these difficult times only to grow stronger." City of Salina leaders will not confirm the unfortunate events Royce wrote of relate to a city audit uncovering a more than $75,000 loss to taxpayers following time card fraud within the fire department. The man who discovered and reported that fraud, former Captain Tim LePage.
You know, is city management going to stake a claim of victory here? Because they could say they've cut the head of the snake off. And I thought, well, you know, it's a start. It's a good start.
LePage says he sees the chief's resignation as a win for the city, but still steps away from a victory.
The chief was ultimately responsible, and I think this was due. What I want to see happen is that the people involved are held accountable.
Confirmed by that audit, our Fact Finder 12 investigation found chiefs of staff within the department were incorrectly reporting their work hours to the city for years. To date, none have been publicly reprimanded, and Thursday, the city declined to comment further. LePage says he's glad to see the city making changes, but still waits to see if those named in the audit will face consequences, and defends those that weren't to anyone who will listen.
I want everyone to know, when you see an ambulance and a fire truck driving down the streets of Salina, those aren't the people involved here.